Hi there, this is a demonstration video for the new Find and Replace tool for Concrete 5. Right now I've already installed the tool and it's in the dashboard. You can find it on the right side under Find and Replace, and we'll get started going through this. It's pretty cool. Okay, so if you're looking for something to be able to manage a large website or a blog built on Concrete 5, you'll probably have come across a situation where it's difficult to be able to make wide-scale changes quickly and easily. So this tool will allow you to find a particular section of text and replace it with something else across any block, across any page attributes, and even stacks. So I'll show you how this works step by step. The first thing we do is we type in a search query. So this is the text that we're looking for. On the right, we've got here the tree or the locale, the language that we're searching through. By default, Concrete 5 has at least one default one, which is English. If you have a multilingual site, it's possible to adjust that within the settings of this particular tool, so you search for one language at a time, so you don't get unwanted mix-ups. The default option here under search options is ignore case, which I would tend to recommend. If you wanted to specifically only look for uppercase or lowercase variations of the keyword you're looking for, you can choose to turn that on or off. The search match type over here, usually it would use inside, so this is how it matches your text. It looks for it anywhere inside of the field on a page or within a block. If you want to find a whole field, that entire field must equal your search query. You have that option, or you can say that you want it to start with or end with your search query. More often than not, you probably use inside. If you wanted to filter down the list of pages that you're searching through, you can do it by the name or the URL slug of that particular page. Say you wanted everything under blog or news or something like that, you can search that way. You can also search by page type handle. So if you wanted certain page types to only be searched, such as blog post or product, whatever you use on your website. The last two fields are for page versions that are either modified after or before a certain range. So if you use this tool on a regular basis, say once a month, and you only want to see what pages have changed in the last month, you're able to do that very easily. You just choose any pages modified after a certain date. Or if you want them all done before a certain date, that's certainly doable too. Okay, I'll just clear that out. Once you have entered your query, simply click on the search button at the bottom. Now, depending on the size of your website and the power of your server, it can take a few seconds, maybe a little bit longer, to be able to find all the pages. So what it's just done there in 7.3 seconds is it's searched through 49 pages on this particular example website. On each of the pages, it's scanned through every single block on that page. And then within that block, it has searched through every field within that block. So it's quite an intensive process to find absolutely everything. In this case, it's found 18 results for the word Ipsum, because I've got a test website. All right, so at this point, we can decide, if you're simply using this tool for doing finding, you can see what results come up. You can click on those pages if you wish. You can, find what you're after, or more likely, you might want to make a large change. So in this case, I'm going to try replacing it with something useful, Ipsum 000. Okay, by default, it's going to automatically try to match the case. If I wanted to definitely use an uppercase or lowercase from my replacement text, then you can choose that if you wish. So at this point, I can scroll through the list of matching pages and decide which ones I want to include in this replacement execution. If you simply want to choose all pages, there's a checkbox at the top, or you can choose to go through individual pages and select just the ones you want. Now we're going to have a look at a bit more detail here at these particular pages. First thing you'll see here is the name of the page and a link to that particular page. So if you want to investigate that page in more detail, you can. It shows you the parent page just beneath it, so it gives you a sense of context, particularly on a larger website, where that particular page is located. We see the date it was last modified, and it also gives you a user-friendly time stamp of how many minutes, hours, days, or months ago, or years. You'll notice that the date last modified is green. That means that this particular page version this particular page has its most recent version is being active. If that particular version wasn't active, like you had created a draft version and had not published it, it would be orange and it would say version whatever it might be hasn't been published yet. So you're aware of what's going on. If another admin has got that page open in edit mode, then there'll be a red warning sign underneath the page name saying which particular user has checked out that page for editing. This helps to prevent accidental changes being made to the same page at the same time. We can see who was the author who created that page, which user, and if it's been approved by a different user, you can also see who that was. Each of these links here links to their user profile in Concrete 5. Next over, we see the page type. This again makes it easier to identify the type of page you're looking at. Very, very handy on a large website. You can see the language, which section of the tree or locale that it is within on the site. Page ID, just for being able to easily identify pages with similar names. And then very handy here, we got 3 links to see the SEO values, the attributes, and also the version. So at this point, if you weren't sure who had made changes to this page, you can click on versions and it will open up in a pop-up. You can see exactly when the last change was made, who made it, and scroll back and see previous versions. If you wanted to see the SEO values, such as the name, the slug, the meta title, you can easily view and edit it straight from here. And the same thing for all attributes. You can see all the attributes and make any modifications that you wish straight from here if you wanted to. So keep going down, we see underneath this particular page all the places where our string, ipsum, has been found. And it groups them together. The first one we see is the page description. You'll notice that particular pill is dark, it's black. So that helps to identify that piece of information as an attribute, a page attribute, which is either one of the core attributes such as a name, description, or slug, or it could also be a custom attribute if you've created them for your site. And it gives us the value within its context. So you can see ipsum is highlighted in yellow. That makes it easy to spot. And keep going down, we see the next pill is gray, which means that it's a block, and it's the content block. And within that content block, it's found the field called content also as well. The number next to it is our block ID, if we just want to be able to differentiate one block from another. And then it gives us the value of that particular block with, again, our keyword highlighted in yellow. And you can see as we keep going down the number of blocks. And then we go on to a next page and you keep on repeating the same sort of process. So if I wanted to change all of the pages, again, I just mentioned I can check all of the checkboxes that way. Or if I only want to pick and choose individual ones, you can choose them one at a time. Once you've selected all your pages, go down to the very bottom and it gives you a big red button because it's warning you that you're doing something, possibly quite wide scale. And so you have to use some caution. Now it gives you an option here one more time. If you want to check all the results, you can just click that link. And if you later on want to undo the changes, it mentions about the rollback tool, which we'll look at a little bit later in this video. Okay, if I'm happy with the changes I want to make, I'm going to press this red button. And it's giving me a warning saying, are you absolutely sure you wish to go ahead with the replace? If I say no or cancel, then it will back out. And if I say okay, it's going to go ahead. Now at this particular point, it's going ahead and making those changes. It can take anywhere from half a second to several seconds, depending on how many changes you're making, how fast is your server, and that sort of thing. And now we've got a summary that one page has been updated. Within that one page, there have been 3 blocks and 1 attribute modified. And it gives us a time in just over half a second. So we can see very quickly and easily what has happened there. We can feel comfortable with that. And then for additional peace of mind and auditing, it's given a unique ID, in this case 18, which is called the find ID. So this way we can notice which find and replace batches we have done, both for our own audits, which gets logged in the Concrete 5 log, or also in the rollback tool, which we'll look at very, very soon. So that's how easy it was to make a change to one particular page, or to 10 pages, or to 100 pages. It takes literally just a few seconds. Very, very easy. At this point, I could go back and search again and start my search, or we can jump into the rollback tool. For your extra peace of mind, if you accidentally press the refresh button, you don't have to worry. It's not going to allow you to redo your changes all over again. At this point, it's also worthwhile mentioning that the way that these changes are made are using the versioning system within Concrete 5. So on the pages that I've selected the previous step, it has instantly made a new version. It has modified the value in the particular blocks, in this case the content blocks that we've changed, and in the page attributes, and then it has approved those changes. It's done all those steps within just a few seconds. It uses my currently logged in user account to track who's made that change, just like you would with any other page version in Concrete 5. For this next part of the video, I'm going to go through the rollback tool. So we just made a recent change to one particular page, as you recall. Here is the page that we've just made our change to, and you can see above it our find and replace execution. It tells us what we found, what we replaced, who the user was, the date and time and timestamp of how long ago it occurred, and how many records were found and replaced. It also tells us the language tree for our site, and it gives us a unique ID. And you recall just a few moments ago, we saw ID 18 for our particular replacement task. So here we can see under this our page that we have modified and its parent page. To give it a bit of context, we can also see the page type. Then afterwards, we got some interesting information here. We see V12, which means version 12 of that particular page. In this case, it is green, which means that it's the most current active version of this page. It means since we've made our change, no one else has modified this particular page. From this area, we can still go to our three tools we saw before: versions, attributes, and SEO. So if we wanted to see the version history, we can click on that and get into more detail about exactly who changed this version and when. Now, this rollback tool is very intelligent. It will not let you make changes that will break your site. So here, a little bit further down, was a previous search, find and replace execution I've done. I searched for Ipsum with a bunch of zeros and replaced it back with regular Ipsum. It was done by me 24 minutes ago. And this particular one also modified the same page. You'll notice that next to it, it shows V11 with an up arrow to V12. That means that at the time I made that change, it was version 11. And since then, it has been replaced by version 12. The previous version was from 24 minutes ago. And you can also see just below it, it was done. It was replaced by the find and replace ID 18. That's the routine 18, which you'll see in the upper corner here, which is our new find and replace routine that we've just executed. It also tells us who was the username of the person who has replaced the previous version just here. So this checkbox next to this particular item is grayed out. That means that you can't accidentally roll back to version 11. You can only modify or work with version 12. So if I was not happy with this particular change, whether I had one page or 100 pages, I could either select them individually or again with the checkbox at the top and select them all. And then simply hit the rollback button and it will roll back to the previous version. This action cannot be undone. It is deleting the most recent version of the page and approving the previous version of that page. This also is a useful place where you can see a history of your find and replace executions. But you'll see if there is a red color next to the version that version has been replaced, that it can no longer be rolled back to from this rollback tool, which is intended to be doing rollbacks in bulk, not doing them one at a time. If you wanted to do that one at a time, you can absolutely do that by clicking on the versions link, and you've got the built-in core Concrete 5 interface for handling the versions that way. So if I was to roll this particular change back, I simply check as many boxes as I want, hit the rollback button. It gives me a warning to make sure I definitely want to do that. And then once that is done, in a few seconds, it will show a confirmation message. It will tell me how many pages were modified and how long it took. It also gives me a reference number so that I keep track. All of these changes that you make as summary is recorded in the Concrete 5 log, so you can come back to that at any time. If you want to see what other users on your website are making changes using this particular tool, you can do so. In this last section of the video, I'll show you the settings screen. These can be found on the right side under Find and Replace. There are only two options at this point, and more might be added in the future. The first option is for searching stacks and deciding how you want to interact with them. By default, you can search through all stacks, and the Find and Replace tool will track that down. Or you can choose to only work with global areas. Or thirdly, you can say no stacks and it will get skipped altogether. The second option is to limit the locale or language for your particular site. Now, by default, Concrete 5 has just one language installed out of the box, but you can have multiple languages, and this tool supports that. To make it easier and safer to use this tool, it only will allow you to work with one locale at a time. In this way, if you have words that are similar in different languages, they can have different meanings, then it's dangerous to use a find and replace across all of them. If you wish to use that, you just need to change the site tray you wish to work with from this particular settings screen and then go back to the find screen, and you'll notice the change. For most people who don't have a multilingual site, you don't have to worry about this. Okay, that is all the settings and the functionality of the Find and Replace tool for Concrete 5. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video and that you've got some ideas about how you can put this to use. Feel free to send a ticket if you have any questions. Thanks very much for watching.